Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I was making dinner when my phone buzzed. Unknown number, straight to voicemail. I didn't think anything of it until I heard the message. Hi, this is Debbie from Westbriar Care Center. I'm calling about your mother, Janice Miller. She's been admitted to our facility recently, and her condition is deteriorating. Please call us back as soon as possible. I froze. My mother? In a care facility? I hadn't heard a damn thing about this. I called the number back immediately, but it went to voicemail. I tried again. Same result. My name is Sarah Miller. I'm 35. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And somehow, my mother got locked away in a care facility without a word. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and dialed my dad. He picked up on the third ring. Hey, what's up? He said, voice relaxed, background noise of waves and seagulls behind him. Dad, what the hell is going on? I just got a voicemail from some care center saying mom's there and she's declining. Why didn't you tell me? He sighed like I was being dramatic. Oh, that. Yeah, she's been there a couple weeks. She wasn't doing great, and your stepmom and I thought it'd be better if she had professional care. A couple weeks? I said, my voice cracking. You didn't think I deserved to know my mother was being moved into a damn facility? We didn't want to worry you, Sarah. You're busy, and honestly, there wasn't much to discuss. It's handled. Handled? I gripped the edge of the counter. By who? You and Diane? You don't even talk to her unless you have to. She's being looked after. Let the people there do their job. Look, we're on vacation right now. Can we talk about this later? Are you serious right now? He chuckled like I was the unreasonable one. Don't blow this up, Sarah. It's fine. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I grabbed my laptop and pulled up Westbriar's website. Looked like a glorified warehouse with a fresh coat of paint. I scrolled through their patient policies, my heart pounding. Admissions, medical decisions, family involvement. I saw words like authorized guardian and limited access rights. Then I saw something worse. All decisions must be made by the designated medical proxy. That wouldn't be me. It'd be my dad, or Diane. I started searching Kentucky elder law statutes. I needed to know what rights I had and how to challenge whoever signed her in. I printed medical release forms, POA challenge paperwork, and began a list of every question I'd need answered tomorrow. Screw their decisions. If I wanted the truth, I had to get it myself. I grabbed my keys, slammed my laptop shut, and started packing a bag. I was going to Westbriar in the morning. End of scene 1. Word count, 497, 450 to 550. I opened the passenger door and shoved the bag onto the seat, then sat in the car with my phone and a legal pad in my lap. I still had Westbriar's site pulled up. Buried in the policies section was a page on patient discharge procedures. It wasn't as simple as walking in and saying, "She's coming with me." To remove someone, I needed medical clearance, proof of alternative care, and signed forms from the attending physician. If the patient had a designated health proxy, they had full control unless challenged legally. No proxy listed meant the next of kin had to sign off. I called the facility. This time, someone answered. Westbriar Care? This is Angela. This is Sarah Miller. I'm calling about my mother, Janice. I need her records and to know who signed her in. Angela paused. Hold on, please. I waited. My fingers gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. When she came back, her tone was careful. Her records are protected under HIPAA. Only the authorized medical proxy or guardian can request access. And who is that? Your father, Richard Miller. I sat back. Of course. Can you at least tell me when she was admitted? July 10th. That was almost 3 weeks ago. I hadn't heard a word. I thanked her, hung up, and opened Kentucky's online court records. No legal guardianship had been filed under my mom's name, which meant Dad had default authority. That didn't sit right with me. I logged into the state's advanced directive database and searched for Mom's file. Took some digging, but there it was. A do not resuscitate order signed 3 days after she was admitted. Name on the authorization line, Richard Miller. And beneath that, Diane Miller. Co-signer. My stomach dropped. They signed a DNR without telling me. No medical records, no diagnosis. Just a quiet legal death sentence handed off behind closed doors. I stared at that PDF like it might explode. My dad wasn't just absent, he was actively putting nails in her coffin. I thought he'd just checked out. Now I saw he'd checked her in. And Diane? She had no blood tie to my mother. She was just playing estate manager, treating mom like leftover furniture to be boxed up and forgotten. I remembered mom working double shifts when dad got laid off. How she used to pack my lunches with notes inside, even when she couldn't afford to pack her own. When dad took off with Diane to find himself in Arizona for 6 months, mom stayed and held everything together. Now they wanted her tucked away where she wouldn't interrupt their next cruise. Screw that! I pulled into the library parking lot and went inside. Quiet place, good Wi-Fi. I scanned and saved every elder care release form I could find. Medical release, revocation of proxy, emergency transport documents. I emailed 3 elder law attorneys asking for consults, then started calling her old doctor to see if he'd treat her again. One front desk nurse said he'd retired last year. Great. The second office I tried was open late. I explained the situation to a younger woman named Kim. Her voice lowered when she realized what was happening. If you can get her out and bring her in, we'll take care of her. We've seen this before. Just be ready. These places don't make it easy. I'm ready, I said. I wasn't, not fully. But I would be. I left with a stack of printed documents, 2 new folders, and a firm plan. This wasn't just about my mom's health. It was about who got to decide if she lived or died. And if my dad thought he had the last word, he didn't know me at all. I started the car, backed out, and drove home to finish packing. This fight had already started. I was just showing up late. I parked in the driveway just after 10, killed the engine, and sat for a second in the dark. My house was quiet, cold even. I left the car bag on the seat and took only the folders and my laptop inside. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I went straight to the kitchen table, dumped everything out, and started organizing. By the time I looked up, the sun was breaking through the blinds. I hadn't slept. Didn't matter. I brewed coffee, grabbed a pen, and laid out every paper I needed in order. Medical proxy challenge, discharge forms, HIPAA release, elder care rights. I made 2 copies of everything and packed them into a black accordion folder. It looked serious. That was the point. Once I had the paperwork sorted, I stood in front of my closet for way too long. Jeans felt too casual. A dress felt too soft. I finally pulled out my work uniform. Navy slacks, crisp white button-down, name badge clipped to the collar. Not hospital scrubs, but professional enough that most people assumed I had authority. Sometimes that's all you need to get doors open. As I laid it across the bed, my eyes landed on the photo shelf above my dresser. One picture stood out, me in 3rd grade, standing in front of a glitter-covered poster board, my mom behind me, smiling so wide it nearly split her face. That was the science fair. She showed up in her waitress uniform, apron still tied, holding a half-eaten granola bar. She hadn't even made it home after work, just drove straight to the school because I said I was nervous. She stood there like it was the most important event of her life. And now she was locked in a place where no one even bothered to call me. I pulled the photo down and tucked it into my bag. Then I grabbed a few other things I thought she'd recognize. A small lavender hand cream she used to keep in her purse, a pair of her old sunglasses I'd found in the glove box last year, and a scarf she used to wrap around her head when she didn't feel like doing her hair. They weren't just comfort items. They were proof that someone still knew her as a person, not a patient. I went through my kitchen pantry and packed some snacks. Nothing fancy, just things she liked. I knew Westbriar wouldn't be serving anything she'd actually eat. Then, I found one of her crossword books in the cabinet above the fridge. She used to do those in the mornings with a cup of black coffee and a slice of burnt toast. I packed it too. My phone buzzed around 11. It was a follow-up email from one of the elder law attorneys I'd reached out to. He wanted to set a meeting for later in the week. I replied with a short, "Yes, ASAP," and included my number. I zipped up the duffel, slid the folders in beside everything, and set it by the front door. This wasn't going to be a warm visit or a casual drop-in. I was walking into a facility run by strangers, controlled by people who didn't give a damn about her, and I had no backup. But I wasn't scared. Not anymore. My family always acted like I was the one who didn't need anything. Like I'd bounce back no matter what. When Dad left, they didn't check in. When Diane showed up, they didn't ask how I felt. They figured I'd deal with it. Well, I did. I grew up fast. I handled things. But now they were about to see what that really looked like. I moved the uniform to the hallway chair, placed the badge on top, and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, I'd be face to face with the place they dumped her in. And I wasn't going in to ask permission. I hit the road just after sunrise. The duffel was in the back seat, folders on the passenger side, uniform crisp and clean on my back. I drove with both hands tight on the wheel, jaw locked, eyes fixed ahead. Every minute on that highway just added fuel to the fire, Anger, yeah, but underneath that was something worse. Guilt that I hadn't known sooner. That my own mother was wasting away while I was clocking in and out of shifts and trusting people who'd thrown her aside. I thought Dad was just distant. Turns out he was deliberate. The GPS dinged as I turned off the main road. You've arrived. Westbriar sat behind a chain link fence with peeling black paint. The sign out front looked clean, but the bushes underneath were half dead, and the front lawn was mostly dirt and weeds. There was a fake fountain near the entrance, dry and chipped, full of cigarette butts. I parked under a crooked tree and just stared at the building. This wasn't a place you sent someone to recover. This was where you sent someone to disappear. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and something stale. Not quite rot, but close. A man in a gown sat in the hallway holding a stuffed animal, just staring at the wall. No one talked to him. No one looked at him. A nurse passed right by without flinching. I walked straight to the front desk. The receptionist glanced up, then saw the badge clipped to my shirt and sat up straighter. Can I help you? I'm here for Janice Miller. She's my mother. I need to see her and speak with whoever's in charge of her care. She clicked around on the computer. I'm sorry, I don't see your name listed on her contact file. I'm not asking for the file, I said. I'm asking to speak with the administrator. Now, she hesitated. I didn't. I have legal paperwork, copies of a DNR that was signed without family consensus, and I'm more than happy to involve outside counsel if necessary. She picked up the phone and dialed an extension. After 10 minutes, a tall guy in a wrinkled shirt came out and introduced himself as Mr. Evans, the admin. He looked like he hadn't dealt with someone like me in a while. I just want to see her, I said. He sighed. She's in room 214. One visitor at a time. Please keep it brief. I followed the signs past the nurse's station. Most of the doors were shut. The ones that were open, I wish they weren't. Old men and women slumped in chairs, some in beds with trays still full of untouched food. No music, no laughter, just the buzz of a vending machine down the hall. I stopped in front of 214 and took a breath. When I opened the door, I saw her. Smaller than I remembered, curled under a scratchy blanket, hair flat, face pale, but her eyes flicked toward me, and something in them lit up. Mom, I said softly, kneeling beside the bed. She blinked a few times, then smiled. Weak, but real. Sarah? Baby? I nodded, fighting the lump in my throat. Yeah, I'm here. She reached out slowly, her hand trembling. I took it in both of mine. I knew you'd come, she whispered. But they said I couldn't leave. I leaned in close. They don't decide that, not anymore. Her hand tightened around mine, just a little. I let go of her hand and stood up. I'll be back in 10 minutes, I told her. We're not staying. She looked scared, but she nodded. I shut the door gently, turned on my heel, and walked straight back to the front. The admin, Mr. Evans, was waiting behind the desk, talking with the receptionist. He looked up, saw my face, and straightened his posture. We need to talk. Privately. He gestured toward a small office off to the side. The blinds were half closed, the air stale and overcooled. I sat down. He stayed standing. I understand this is upsetting, he started, already in damage control mode. But your mother is in a safe environment, receiving appropriate care. She's isolated in a room that smells like bleach, surrounded by people no one talks to. That's not care, that's storage. He sighed and moved to sit. Look, I know it's emotional, but we've done everything according to protocol. She was admitted with full consent of her legal proxy. Your father? Yeah, I've seen his work. I've got the DNR right here. I pulled out the folder and laid it on the table. Signed without any medical recommendation. No physician's note, no diagnosis justification, just a signature. From a man who hasn't lived with her in over 5 years. That's not our concern, he said quickly. If the form was legally valid, it wasn't. And I've already filed a revocation challenge with a pending emergency injunction if necessary. Until then, I have full legal right to act on her behalf. He blinked, hesitated. You're saying you've retained counsel? I opened another folder and showed him the email confirmation with my attorney's letterhead. Try me. He sat back, rubbed his temples. Fine. If you're taking her, you'll need to sign a discharge waiver, and I'll need to get the nurse on duty to prep her for release. Do it. I'll wait. He left without another word. I sat there breathing hard, fingers clenched in my lap. The receptionist walked by the open door once, glanced in, and quickly looked away. No one here made eye contact. No one looked proud of the place they worked in. 15 minutes later, Mr. Evans came back with a thin folder and a clipboard. "She's been cleared," he said flatly. "We've included her most recent chart." I flipped it open. A few pages in, I found it. Another copy of the DNR. Still no doctor's note. Still signed by both my father and Diane. Not even the date matched the official form on file. Just a sloppy paper trail of laziness and neglect. "Thanks," I said, not meaning it. A nurse helped me gather her things. They handed her off like she was a return item at customer service. No emotion, no questions. As we walked down the hallway, my mother leaned into me slightly, like her body knew she was finally going somewhere that mattered. I didn't say a word as we passed the front desk. Just walked out the door and into the sunlight, holding my mother's arm, feeling both victorious and sick to my stomach. She was out, but I knew damn well. This wasn't over. I got her settled in the passenger seat, buckled her in, and pulled out of that parking lot without looking back. My hands were still shaking, but I kept my foot steady on the gas. She stared out the window in silence, her fingers curled loosely in her lap. I glanced over. "You warm enough?" She nodded. It's just quiet. Not like that place." I knew what she meant. Westbriar was all noise. Buzzers, intercoms, nurses yelling down halls. But nothing human about it. Here in the car, it was real silence. The kind that made you think. As we drove, the memories came hard and fast. Mom carrying 3 bags of groceries up the stairs when Dad forgot to pick us up. Her working back-to-back shifts at the diner, then coming home and helping me build volcanoes for science class. She didn't complain. Ever. She just kept going. Like she was built out of steel, not skin. And what did she get in return? Abandoned. Left in a room with no sunlight. Fed by strangers who didn't bother to learn her name. I gripped the wheel tighter. "You holding up okay?" I asked. She looked at me, her eyes clearer than they'd been back in the room. "I knew you'd come. I just didn't know when." That hit like a punch to the gut. I should have come sooner. The rest of the ride was quiet. Just a few comments about landmarks we passed. She noticed a fast food place had changed owners. Asked if the pharmacy still had that crabby old cashier. I answered when I could. Mostly, I just let her talk. When we turned onto her street, she tensed up. The house looked tired, paint peeling, weeds creeping up the steps, mailbox leaning like it gave up months ago. I parked and got out first, grabbed her bag, and walked around to help her out. "This place looks different," she said. "Not really," I replied. "Just hasn't had anyone taking care of it." We walked slowly up the front steps. She leaned into me, and I steadied her with one hand on her back. At the door, I had to jiggle the key twice before it turned. Inside smelled like dust and leftover memories. Furniture was still there, but everything felt off, like a stage set after the show ended. She walked in carefully, looking around like she was stepping into a stranger's house. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded slowly. "Just strange, being back." I helped her to the couch and pulled the curtains open to let in the light. "We'll fix it," I said, little by little. She looked at me, and I saw the same look she used to give when I scraped my knees. Half pain, half pride. "I'm not sure what's coming," I told her. "Dad's not going to take this quietly, but I don't care. He's not the one sitting here now." She reached out, took my hand. "He never was." I sat beside her, both of us looking around the room like we were meeting it for the first time. Whatever storm was coming, it could wait. Right now, it was just me and her. I waited until my mom had fallen asleep on the couch, her hand still resting on the armrest like she was afraid the room might vanish. I pulled the door halfway closed, went to the kitchen, and grabbed my phone. I didn't pace, I didn't rehearse, I just hit Dad and let it ring. He picked up on the second try. "Sarah, everything okay?" "Don't act surprised, you knew this call was coming." He sighed. "Look, I figured you'd be upset." "Upset? You locked my mother in a facility and signed a do not resuscitate order without telling me." "I didn't lock anyone anywhere. Don't be dramatic. She needed help, and Diane and I handled it." "Handled it?" I said louder. "You signed off on a DNR with no medical basis. You didn't even tell me she was in care until I got a random voicemail." He snorted. "It wasn't random. You were going to find out eventually." "Eventually?" I snapped. "She's been in there for weeks, Dad. Wasting away while you played house in Florida." "She's in her 70s, Sarah. She's been slipping for a while." "You don't see it because you're not around?" "I'm not around because you shoved me out of every decision years ago," I shot back. But guess what? I'm here now, and she's home with me. There was a pause, then he chuckled. Oh boy, you went and pulled her out, didn't you? Damn right I did. You don't know what you're doing, he said. She can't live on her own anymore. That place was equipped. You aren't. Don't even start, I said. That place was a dump. She was half-starved and isolated. You didn't visit once, did you? She didn't want visitors. Bullshit. She lit up when she saw me. She's confused. She's not herself. You're not thinking straight. You're not. You treated her like a liability. Like if you buried her quietly, no one would ask questions. You and Diane wanted her out of the picture so you could move on. He let out a sharp laugh. Wow, that's a real convenient story you've built there. You always did have a flair for theatrics. I felt my stomach twist. This isn't theater. This is her life. The woman who raised me while you chased hobbies and flings, she worked until her hands cracked just to keep the lights on. And now you think you get to decide when she disappears? I was doing what's best for everyone. You were doing what's easiest for you. He got quiet. You think you're the only one who's sacrificed? You think this hasn't been hard on me? Yeah, I said cold and flat, because I haven't seen you do one hard thing for her in over a decade. Silence again. She's staying here, I continued, and she's safe now. But if you so much as call this house again, if you even try to interfere with her care, you're going to hear from my lawyer. You're blowing this out of proportion. No, Dad. I'm finally setting proportions straight. He exhaled like he was about to say something else, but I cut him off. You're not welcome here. Not now, not ever. You gave up your right to decide anything for her the moment you put your signature on that form without a second thought. Sarah, I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear. It was a clean, focused anger, controlled. I looked down at the phone, saw his name still glowing on the call history, and deleted it. Then I walked back to the living room and sat next to my mother, just watching her breathe. She was still here. That was all that mattered. The next morning, I dropped Mom off at a friend's place for the afternoon, someone I trusted, and drove straight to the law office downtown. Third floor, no frills, just the name Daniel Harlan, Elder Law, on a plastic plaque by the door. He stood when I walked in. Late 40s, sharp suit, tired eyes. You must be Sarah, he said, shaking my hand. Come on in. I laid everything out on his desk. Copies of the DNR, screenshots from the facility's site, emails, discharge papers, and my handwritten notes. I didn't stop talking until I had nothing left to say. He listened the whole time, barely interrupting. Just nodding, flipping pages, tapping the table with his pen. When I finished, he leaned back. This is bad, he said, but not hopeless. I folded my arms. You think the documents are enough? He pointed at the DNR form. This isn't standard. No doctor's signature, no date from the attending physician. If we can prove this was filed without proper authorization, and we probably can, your father could be facing some serious fallout. Criminal? If he knowingly misrepresented your mother's condition or signed under false authority? Yeah, fraud. Possibly elder abuse, depending how deep this goes. I let that sink in. It didn't scare me. It lit something up in me. He sat forward. We'll file for temporary conservatorship, emergency injunction, and petition to void the DNR. I also want to subpoena the facility records and get full discovery. If there's a forged will or any shady financial moves, we'll find them. I nodded. Whatever it takes. I'm not letting him bury her while she's still breathing. Daniel gave a small, sharp smile. Then you came to the right place. He gave me a checklist, evidence I still needed, statements to gather, forms to sign. I stayed for another hour, filling everything out. By the time I left, I had a folder full of next steps and a lawyer who actually gave a damn. I sat in my car and just breathed for a second. Finally, I wasn't alone in this fight. I drove home, grabbed the original files from my safe box, and spent the rest of the night scanning, emailing, organizing, bank statements, old letters, notes Mom had written before the split in her own handwriting about not wanting to be locked away like a secret. This wasn't about revenge. This was about making sure her voice got heard, even if she wasn't strong enough to say it herself. And I was ready to scream it from a courtroom if I had to. Dad in a golf shirt like he'd been dragged away from a tea time, Diane behind him with her arms crossed and sunglasses still on. They walked into Mom's living room like it didn't still smell like the person they tried to bury alive. Daniel was seated on the far end of the couch, legal pad in hand, his assistant recording everything quietly on her phone. Two friends of my mom's sat by the window, witnesses, just in case anything went sideways. I stood in the center, folder in hand. "This isn't a negotiation," I said. "This is a warning." Dad gave a tight smile. "Nice to see you too, sweetheart." I opened the folder and laid out the copies. My mother's original will, the DNR with no physician authorization, bank activity showing funds withdrawn under Diane's name. You signed legal documents without authority. You moved her without medical consent, and you did it to protect your own interests. Diane scoffed. "Oh, please, that place was expensive." "We were trying to help." "You were trying to disappear her," I snapped. "You didn't want the responsibility. You just wanted the freedom." Dad raised his hands like I was being ridiculous. "We didn't know what else to do. She was declining." "She was neglected," I said. "And if I hadn't shown up when I did, she might not have made it out of that place. I've spoken with a lawyer. I've spoken with her doctors. And if either of you interfere again, you'll be dealing with court orders." Daniel nodded. "We're pursuing full conservatorship and criminal review of the DNR filing. If you have anything to say, now's your chance." Dad looked down. Diane went pale. Finally, he muttered, "I'm sorry." I stared at him. "Say it like you mean it." He glanced up, eyes cold. "Fine, I'm sorry. We messed up. You tried to erase her. You tried to make choices for someone you abandoned years ago. Don't stand there and pretend it was compassion." He didn't respond, just clenched his jaw and looked past me like the room wasn't worth his time. I took a deep breath. "You're not welcome here. If I see either of you near her again, I won't hesitate to escalate this. She deserves peace. And I'm going to make damn sure she gets it." No one said a word as I opened the door. They left without a fight. For now, as the door clicked shut, something in my chest let go. Not relief, not quite, but control. I had it back. And whatever came next, I wasn't scared.